Albert Einstein once said, if you can't express your idea simply to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it well enough. I'll repeat. He said, if you can't express your idea simply to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it well enough. You know what he was talking about? He was talking about the concept of articulation. Absolutely. Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to learn about the concept of articulation and much more. There is a lot to discuss. There is a lot we need to unravel. So apne pen, paper, notebook तैयार रखिएगा because this is the day that we're going to take a lot of notes. We're going to understand what shapes our articulation, what motivates it, how we're going to overcome our emotions if we have to, what we need to do. Okay? So a lot to cover, but उससे पहले concept को समझ लेते हैं. So जो Albert Einstein ने कहा वो basically what he was trying to say is if you know about what you're talking, that is if you have a strong knowledge base, then you'll be able to express yourself clearly. और जब अपने आप को आप express कर पाएंगे clearly तो क्या होगा? Obviously you'll be understood easily, and that's what articulation is all about. Articulation is about expressing your thoughts, your feelings into meaningful sentences. अब वो मीनिंगफुल सेंटेंसेस के लिए इफ़ यू रिमेंबर अपने लास्ट वीडियो में हमने ये डिस्कस किया है व्हाट मेक्स आर्टिकुलेशन, ग्रामर, फ्लुएंसी, वोकैबुलरी. याद आया थोड़ा सा? हाँ. सो सेंटेंसेस, मीनिंगफुल सेंटेंसेस. और अगर आप मीनिंगफुल सेंटेंसेस से अपने आप को एक्सप्रेस कर रहे हैं सो फॉर श्योर पीपल विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड यू ईजिली. मेक सेंस? बट व्हाट शेप्स आर्टिकुलेशन? वेल, इमोशंस. भावनाओं में मत बहो, हमने ज़रूर सुना होगा, बट दिस इज़ एक्चुअली नॉट करेक्ट. देखिए, इमोशंस की वजह से कम्युनिकेशन प्रोसेस अफेक्ट ज़रूर होता है, बट एनरिच भी इमोशंस ही करते हैं. फॉर इंस्टेंस, व्हेन यू आर पैशनेट अबाउट समथिंग और समवन, द वे यू टॉक अबाउट देम इज़ वेरी डिफरेंट फॉर समथिंग दैट यू आर नॉट पैशनेट अबाउट. है ना? We are used to converse in our first language, or rather the language that we are most comfortable with. So we express our love, anger, we even fight in the language that we are most comfortable in. There is a reason for it. We are emotionally involved with our language. See, we are emotional beings, okay? And from a very young age, we begin to emote. अपने emotions के through हम अपनी बात को समझाते हैं, बताते हैं जब हमें words नहीं आते हैं, जब हम छोटे बच्चे होते हैं. And eventually, those emotions then takes form of words when we learn the language. So emotions are a very integral part of a language and of you. एक एक्टिविटी करते हैं और इसको फिर और अच्छे से समझते हैं. ठीक है, चलिए. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एन इमेजिनेशन एक्टिविटी. अब इसमें क्या करेंगे? आई विल टेल यू टू इमेजिन फ्यू थिंग्स विच आर नॉट रिलेटेड टू ईच अदर एंड यू विल इमेजिन देम. ओके ओके, I'll tell you again. I will ask you to imagine 4 things which are not related to each other and we will imagine them. उसके लिए हम क्या करेंगे? पहले find yourself a room in which you can sit quietly, close your eyes, nobody should disturb you. It's just going to take 30 seconds, not more than that. But you need to imagine exactly what I'm telling you. ठीक है? चलिए. Close your eyes. Close them. And now imagine what I'm telling you. Let my voice guide you. Okay? Here we go. Close your eyes. Imagine a hot cup of chai on a cold winter's morning. Imagine your child running to you to hug you. Imagine kids laughing in the background. Imagine you're resting your head in your mother's lap while she caresses your forehead. All right, open your eyes. Good. Did you see what just happened? You didn't just imagine what I asked you to imagine, but you also heard and felt a certain emotion with it. When I asked you to imagine a hot cup of chai, some of you would have heard it being poured in a cup or a mug or a glass, isn't it? Yeah, but I never asked you to do that. All I said was, imagine a hot cup of chai. Imagine, now when I said imagine your child running to you to hug you, some of you would have imagined and some of you would have seen your own child and heard him calling out your name, mama or papa or chacha or whatever, and then running to you. Yeah, but I never said that imagine them talking to you. I just said imagine them running to you. But all of this is a part of an emotion. It would have evoked a certain emotion in you, emotion of love, emotion of care, right? And also, some of you would have thought that you still have that hot tea in your chai in your hand, and the kid is running to you. I never asked you to imagine that too, but some of you would have probably, despite me telling you that, hey, you know what? These four things that I'm going to tell you are not related to each other. Then when I said imagine kids laughing in the background, we actually heard them. We actually heard those children, and even though you can't name them, but we heard them laughing in the background. And when I said imagine that you're resting your head in your mother's lap, some of us would have felt the warmth of our mother's hand on our forehead. I never asked you to imagine that warmth, but you did. I never asked you to hear the laughter, but you did. Okay? And that is what emotions do. All right? When I asked you to imagine, you can't imagine without emotions. You can't think without emotion. So you can't speak without emotions. You can't think without emotions. So emotions are very, very powerful and integral part of you, because that's the very thing that makes you a human. Understand this. Language was created so that we can emote better. Language was created to talk about these emotions. Okay? So you can't take the emotions away from the language and say, you know what? Don't bring emotions when you're talking to me. That's impossible to do. Right? So they are very, very powerful and integral part of us. The idea is that we now need to figure out how can we harness these emotions. How can we harness the strength of these emotions? That's an art, and that is what we are going to discover. Okay? Good. Let's move on. There are 4 basic emotions that every human that you and I know display. Okay? The emotions that we've been discussing so far actually shapes your mindset. It helps you articulate better, or it can work against you. So let's understand this, okay? Your emotions actually govern the way you will express your thoughts, okay? And it will actually govern the words that you will choose to express your thoughts. For instance, now, if you're happy, how do you think you will be? What kind of words would you use? Now, when you're happy, you would not use negative words, isn't it? When you're happy, your tone will be, well, elevated, of course. How would your rate of speech be? Of course, sometimes fast, and some depending upon how excited you are, it can go really, really fast, and people will have to tell you, hey, slow down. What do you want to say? Now, imagine what will happen if you are, well, sad. You see? It'll be exactly the opposite. But do you know how you're deciding all this? Depending upon how is your emotional state. Okay? So what happens when you are fearful or anxious? Or what happens when you're angry? Now, you see how this is connecting your articulation in a way that, you will be able to choose as per your emotions and not always as per situation, because the situation could be very, very scary, and that is the reason why you need to be in control of your emotions, so that the situation does not overpower you and you don't let your emotions also overpower you. Now, how do we make sure that we are not led by our emotions and actually in a place where we are leading them? Well, later in this module we will discuss this. But for now, I think it is safe to conclude that your emotion play a major part of the way you would articulate. It actually shapes your articulation. Okay? With me so far? Brilliant. Let's move on. So, what we've discussed so far. What shapes us? Of course, emotions. Tick mark. We have done this. What else? Well, prejudice. अब ये prejudice क्या है? नया word है, and I hope you are writing it down, the new words that you hear in this slide or probably in the coming slides as well. In this whole module, you have been noting down words. देखिए, vocabulary बढ़ाने के लिए आपको खुद भी प्रयास करना होगा, आपको खुद भी एफर्ट जो है आपको लगाने पड़ेंगे. ओके, सो मेक श्योर दैट यू listen to new words and you make notes in that journal that we discussed in the vocabulary module. ठीक है, चलिए. What is prejudice? Let's discuss this in detail. Now, होता क्या है prejudice? Prejudice basically is a preconceived notion या preconceived opinion. Yeah. So one more time. Prejudice is a preconceived notion or opinion, either borrowed from others' experience or knowledge or from your own. होता क्या है, कभी कभी when we are in life, when we make a mistake, okay, or probably you trusted someone and you made a mistake, we become prejudiced against that person. That means we will always be on our guard. We probably would not be able to trust that person. Now, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि आपको उस पर trust दोबारा करना चाहिए. To each its own. आप अपना देख के how you need to look at your situation and that example and that person is completely up to you, and that's personal. But when you are prejudiced, that means when you have a preconceived notion because someone robbed you or because someone broke your heart, you will feel everybody else will do it. Now that is prejudice. All right, just because you had one bad experience and you generalize it that this is what usually happens, that is prejudice. Like racism is prejudice. So what we are trying to say, basically they are stereotype beliefs. Okay, लड़कियां गाड़ी नहीं चला सकती, or girls cannot do this, or boys shouldn't do this. All of these are preconceived notions. All of these are prejudice. Okay. Now, mostly prejudice, जो word है, in fact, वो खुद भी बहुत ही negative है. So it's mostly whenever you're prejudiced about something, it is mostly negative. समझ रहे हैं? मतलब आप इसे positively use नहीं कर सकते. You can't say I'm prejudiced about pizza. ठीक है. So इसको आप you can't use it positively. You'll always use it in a negative sense. So why prejudice, or why are we discussing prejudice in articulation? Well, if you're prejudiced about something, how do you think the word choice is going to be? How do you think your tone is going to be? Is it going to be sarcastic, or is it going to be happy? Is it how your word choice are going to be? Are they going to be negative or they're going to be positive? You see where I'm going with this? Prejudice, just like emotion, shapes your articulation as well. So my suggestion is keep prejudice at bay when you're conversing. Let's move on and find out what else do we have in store for us. So, what shapes it? Well, let's quickly discuss what we have. So we have covered emotions, we have covered prejudice. What else shapes your articulation? Well, experience. How? Let's find out.